Cutting straight across now to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson speaking.
You've all seen it, but I will rely on his very detailed briefing that he made yesterday, and to emphasize that we are making progress. I think you can see it day by day. But let me start with what you've seen already, which is that decision to send special envoys of Honorable Prime Minister to the 4 countries neighboring, well actually 5, but we have a common envoy for 2 countries, to the countries neighboring Ukraine. Specifically, Honorable Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia will be going to Romania, and will also go to Moldova, and I'll come to a bit on the Moldova story. Honorable Minister Kiran Rijiju will go to the Slovak Republic. Honorable Minister Hardeep Puri would be going to Hungary, and Honorable Minister General V.K. Singh would be going to Poland. You've seen some reports already, let me confirm that. These special envoys will be traveling to these countries basically to coordinate and oversee the evacuation process there on the ground. If situation permitting, you might also find them going to the as close as possible to where the evacuation happening. So that will depend on the specific circumstances. But I think you will see them operating there, coordinating all the efforts, and as I mentioned, being in touch with local authorities and as well as with other partners that are helping in this process. Having said that, just to give you a sense of where our evacuation efforts are, let me begin by saying that the situation on the ground in terms of evacuation continues to be complex and fluid. You've seen that from the reports, media reports that are coming in, some of them quite concerning. Nevertheless, we have been able to accelerate our evacuation process clearly over the last 24 hours. And I will give you separate elements of that. Just a broad numbers. Our estimate is that we have, more than estimate, I think, around 8,000, over 8,000 Indian nationals have left Ukraine since we issued the initial advisories. So I go back, it's not since the conflict began, but since we issued the initial advisories, our estimate to the extent that we don't exactly know how many left between the advisory and the conflict started. We think around 8,000 citizens have left. And as I speak, I think the 6th flight has just landed. So 6 evacuation flights have landed in India, bringing back around 1,396, I think is the number that I have, 1,400 students, Indian citizens. These are 4 flights were from Bucharest, as you remember, and 2 from Budapest. So the from Bucharest and 2 from Budapest. So these 6 flights have brought back around 1,396 Indian nationals. I will come in a minute. I will come back to the
6 flights, right?
Yeah. Let me repeat again. Sorry, I think there's some confusion. As I said, over 8,000 citizens have left. That is over the advisory period, and then of course the Operation Ganga as it had started. We have had 6 evacuation flights that have landed in India. The 6th one having landed just a little while ago in Delhi. Of these 6 flights, 4 left Bucharest and 2 were from Budapest. The total number of people on these flights, 1,396. That's what our numbers are. I will come back to the flights in a minute. Our focus, of course, is on the land borders before they go to the flights, getting people out from Ukraine through the land borders. There has been some movement, an improvement on the movement into Poland. As we were discussing yesterday about the difficulties at the Polish border. I think they're still difficult, but I think it's improved. Our embassy in Warsaw was able to arrange buses at the Sheni border point. There's a Sheni Medica border point. The Sheni side is on the Ukrainian side. So do remember that we're talking about the Ukrainian side. Things are much easier to do on whether it's the Polish or the Romanian or the Hungarian or the Slovak side. It's inside Ukraine, but I must say our embassy was able to organize a fleet of 10 buses, and I think now that's being expanded, to take students who've been stuck at the Sheni border point and take them to the Krakowiec, which is where the main border crossing is, and also to a place called Budomierz, which is even more north, a few more kilometers north on the same Polish border, and facilitate their crossing into Poland. So that has helped take off some of the pressure there, but again, this is a continuing process because there were a lot of students, and I think they still are there. On the Polish side, once they cross the border, arrangements for food and accommodation have been made in the nearby town of Resso, I think it's pronounced Resso. And a number of Indians are there currently awaiting their flights back to India. So this is a good development. We managed to get some people across, and hopefully as this bus movement and taking them to the other border points continues, we should be able to ease some of the pressure. But I must emphasize that there is still a large number of Ukrainians and other citizens at the borders. The border is pretty crowded. There has also been movement, progress on the border with Romania. But there, because of, I think 2 days ago, there was a lot of movement. Yesterday, movement was slow. But today, I think there has been some good progress. But large crowds still remain on, in fact, all the border points, I would say. We are separately expanding evacuation process through the Hungary border. There is a city of Uzhgorod that Foreign Secretary mentioned yesterday. We are using that now as a staging point for that area. It's as far southwest of Ukraine. And Hungary also, we've had good movement of people. I'm happy to announce that we have also been able to open a new route through Moldova. An MEA team reached Moldova today morning, as Foreign Secretary mentioned yesterday. That team is now in place and is operational. They will assist in the evacuation of Indians through Romania. Moldova it's landlocked, and so these people will come into Moldova, then go from Moldova into Romania and then to Bucharest, and then fly out from there. So this new route should help Indians in southern Ukraine, around Odessa and those places. I'll come to that. And those near Ukraine-Moldova borders. I am aware that some people were waiting on the Moldova side. Some people had crossed into Moldova but couldn't enter Romania. So we are now looking at how we can move them from Ukraine into Moldova into Romania. So it's in process, but some people are already in Moldova, and we are trying to see how they can be helped into Romania and into Bucharest. You would recall EM spoke with his Moldovan and Hungarian counterparts yesterday and sought their support in facilitating evacuation of Indian citizens. Today, I think he's just spoken to the Polish foreign minister. And let's see, clearly at various levels we are engaged with all the countries there with a primary focus on this. Moving on to, this is on the western part. So moving on to the other parts of Ukraine, we are encouraging Indians to move to western Ukraine, as you've seen the advisories. Our understanding is that some students in some of these cities in eastern Ukraine are boarding trains which taking them to the west. You would have seen some social media reports. I think Honorable Minister R.R. Singh also mentioned something. Some of it is confirmed, some of it is happening as we speak. But let me make a request here and emphasize something to you all and to our students and their families who are listening to this. We want to emphasize that people should not reach the border directly. Okay? If they do, they will face long waiting times to cross, as you've seen in Poland border, as you've seen on the Romanian border. So yes, please do reach the western parts of the country, the western parts of Ukraine, but please seek shelter in nearby towns. Let me repeat again. I will come back to it. Maybe as I finish. Or if you want, देखिए हमारी आग्रह रहेगी सारे जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, इंडियंस हैं, कि आपको एडवाइजरी दी गई कि आप वेस्टर्न यूक्रेन में जाएं, पर मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं, आपसे अनुरोध करना चाहता हूं कि आप जब जाएंगे आप वहां पे डायरेक्टली बॉर्डर में ना जाएं. आप अगर बॉर्डर में जाएंगे तो वहां बहुत बड़ी भीड़ है, आपको बहुत समय लगेगा. आपने पोलैंड में भी देखा था, आप अभी रोमानिया में देख रहे हैं, बॉर्डर क्रॉसिंग में बहुत समय लगता है, ठंड में रुकना पड़ेगा. हम अनुरोध यही करेंगे कि आप कोई नियर बाय शहर में जाइए, आसपास के वहां गांव तो नहीं, शहर में कहीं अगर आपको वहां रहे, बंदोबस्त हो रही है कुछ, हमारी टीम वहां कोऑर्डिनेट कर रही है, पर आपके यूनिवर्सिटी वगैरह भी कर रहे होंगे, वहां रुके, हमारी टीम आपको हेल्प करेगी. बिल्कुल पैनिक न कीजिए, इनफ फ्लाइट्स हैं, हम आपको भी बताते हैं इसके बारे में. So they should seek shelter in towns near the border areas, as I just said, and move to the border only in consultation with our teams. in accordance with the advisories that are being issued and will continue to be issued. Moving to the two cities in the east, well, actually not east, Kyiv and regarding the cities of Kyiv and Kharkiv, we are closely monitoring developments there, the situation. The weekend curfew was lifted today in Kyiv, and in the morning, it is a weekend curfew, and at 8 o'clock today, that curfew was lifted. Currently, there is no curfew in Kyiv, at least in those areas. We hear that in Kharkiv also it has been lifted. But again, Kharkiv have less understanding because in Kyiv we have better information. Our embassy has issued two advisories today, basically requesting students, asking students, subject to safety of course, to make their way to the railway station in Kyiv for onward journey to the western areas. अब जैसे कह रहे थे हिंदी में, हमारी दूतावास ने एक एडवाइजरीज जारी की है कि जो है कीव शहर में स्टूडेंट्स, अभी वहाँ पे कर्फ्यू नहीं है, आप निकल के जितना दूर हो सकता है आप रिस्क ना लेके कीव स्टेशन पे जाइए, वहाँ से ट्रेन्स चल रही हैं, आई थिंक कुछ फ्री बिना शुल्क के वहाँ पे ट्रेन्स चल रही हैं, भीड़ होगी हमारे, अभी देखा मैंने एडवाइजरीज को फॉलो कीजिए. So they will go to the railway station for onward journey to the western parts. Ukraine Airlines is arranging special trains for evacuations. And our latest understanding is that many students are now leaving Kyiv. Many Indian students are now leaving Kyiv. We will share with you more updates as we have them. Our embassy is actually live on this issue. So that's basically where we stand as per information. Coming on to what are we coordinating. As you are aware, a dedicated Twitter handle, Op Ganga helpline, with the hashtag handle at Op Ganga, Operation Ganga helpline, has been set up to assist in the evacuation process. This handle is working in coordination with dedicated control centers that have been set up for each border crossing. And we have also shared with you the new numbers of the control centers. Late last evening we shared with you. Those numbers are, as Foreign Secretary was saying, originally we had given you direct numbers of some of the officials. They are impossible to take that many calls. We are hoping that the control center will be able to take the greater load. We will continue to expand this. And of course, there is a control room in the Ministry of External Affairs actually operating from this very building, which is operating on 24/7 basis. Just to share with you a number, it has handled more than 8,000 calls and processed more than 6,000 emails since it was set up, I think, a few days ago. Yes. The MEA control room has handled more than 8,000 calls and processed more than 6,000 emails since the control room was set up. This is apart from, of course, the calls and the messages that our embassies and our control centers abroad are receiving. This is just the Ministry of External Affairs control room here. Let me move on to the flights as I started off. Foreign Secretary indicated to you a tentative flight schedule yesterday. You saw that. We are adding to that based on demand. Demand means whenever students are there. At this moment, just to share information, over the next 24 hours, 3 more flights are scheduled. Okay, 2 of these flights will be from Bucharest. Okay, so out of the 3, 2 from Bucharest, 1 to Delhi, 1 to Mumbai. So Bucharest, Delhi and Bucharest, Mumbai. And 1 from Budapest to Delhi. So that's the next 24 hours. I don't want to give you more because we will keep on changing this. Let me emphasize another thing again to everyone, particularly to the students and other family members. Flights are not the constraint. We will add more flights as needed. We have seen some messages saying, oh, flights are going away, we will not be able to take the flights, panic is setting in. Please do not get worried. Once you cross the Ukrainian borders, we will make sure there are enough flights to bring you back, whether it takes a day or 2 more. So I wanted to emphasize this to people who are seeing. The main focus is to ensure that Indians are able to cross over from Ukraine into the neighboring countries that I mentioned. Just to emphasize also that we are continually augmenting the presence of the MEA teams for necessary arrangements at the border points in Slovak Republic, Romania, Poland and Hungary, and now today Moldova. Contact details of these teams and these control centers have been shared. We are increasing the size of the teams. We are also augmenting the strength of our embassies in these 4 countries bordering Ukraine. We are every day we are authorizing more officials and from nearby countries as well as from Delhi to go and help our colleagues in these embassies. I think that's broadly a briefing on what information I have. I would just like to end my initial remarks by saying I don't think a student should panic. They should try to go to the western parts of Ukraine, wait there, contact our teams, contact our control rooms, share their location information so that we can get them registered in terms of when can they be brought out, because the borders are very crowded and you cannot just land up and expect to wait. They will wait 2 days or 1 day in the cold. And we are hoping that we are able to expand this process. Things have improved a bit significantly I would say, in some of the border checkpoints, particularly the Budapest one. And we hope to augment that process in the next few days. Okay, I'll stop here.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.